Good morning, all. Hello. Good morning, all. I welcome you to today's session. Today we have with us Dr. S. Maya. Ma'am is Director Academic Staff College, Kerala Veterinary and Animal Science University. She's Professor Head Department of Veterinary Anatomy and Histology College of Veterinary and Animal Sciences. Ma'am, today is going to deliberate on problem-based learning and advances in fodder production, utilization, and conservation for improving livestock health, productivity, and environmental sustainability. Ma'am, you are visible, audible, and your presentation is also visible. You can start.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, respected officers in charge and dear delegates. I think this is the 19th day of the 21 days program on advances in fodder production, utilization and conservation for improving livestock health, productivity and environmental sustainability. So or different from the previous topics dealt till now, I'll be dealing with a topic which connects the problems encountered during fodder production with the active learning by the students. Okay, I'm Dr. Maya and I'm the Director of Academic Staff College in the Kerala Veterinary and Animal Sciences University. And I invite you to the topic. So it is said that a picture replaces 100 words and a video replaces 1 lakh words. So here you can see some pictures related with various phases of fodder production. It is very true that every activity may be represented as a pleasant and unpleasant pictures. So here you find a few pleasant pictures connected with fodder production. Now you are looking at another picture which shows adverse climatic conditions affecting the fodder production. So it is a drought, a picture of the drought. Then we'll see some more pictures also which may adversely affect the fodder production scenario. So here it is a picture of flood in Assam. Again another picture of flood in Assam. And now you find another picture showing human-animal conflict, again adversely affecting the fodder production. So we have seen pleasant pictures and unpleasant pictures showing or affecting the fodder production. So this or these pictures can be used for learning or inducing self-directed learning in students. How? That we will see. See, every student will be going through again pleasant and unpleasant activities during their curricular and extracurricular activities. Now you are looking at a picture which shows a jubilant group of students who have won a trophy, the overall university trophy in their extracurricular activities, one of the events which we have hosted in KVASU. So this shows a pleasant picture of the students. Now we'll see another picture. See here, a student has his crown fallen on his the ground during another activity during a university youth festival. And you can see his teacher cried. So this is an example for an unpleasant activity which the students encounter during their extracurricular or curricular events. Now, what is the role of the teacher in these situations? See, the teacher is supposed to make a difference in the aptitude of the student, or that through that in the life of the student, he is supposed to make a change. So why we need an aptitude change? So here there is a data, okay, which represents the result of the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, where nearly 12 lakh aspirants will be appearing for the exam and only less than 1 lakh will be placed in different seats, and majority will be opting for MBBS and BDS, but less than or nearly 50,000 only placed in those kinds of seats. Again, another set of data shows nearly 3 lakh students appear for AIMS entrance examination, and only 700 seats are there for different AIMS colleges. So only remaining all the one, that is nearly 2.75 lakhs will be left desperate after these competitive exams. So that is where we need a change in the curricular approach by a teacher. So I will be dealing with problem-based learning, and these will be the topics dealt with. That is the importance of problem-based learning, traditional methods which we follow usually now, then the steps to be followed by the teacher during problem-based learning, then steps to be followed by the students during problem-based learning, and conclusion. Now, why we need an aptitude for the change again, for the students again? So none of the courses usually in India will be demanding a good aptitude, or whether the student is having a good aptitude for that course, that we never check. Usually being the students are being admitted to most of the courses which they do not want, and they are getting admitted due to the pressure from the parents. So whenever a student is getting admitted to our course, it is our duty to check whether they are having an aptitude to our course. So how we will check it, or how we will modify that aptitude of the student? So that is by improving the interest in the course by implementing newer techniques. Okay, so we have to move from the traditional techniques into a newer one. So for that, even during the first year of study, we can expose our students to live animal situations or live farming situations. So being an agriculture or veterinary student, they have to move into clinics or farms during their final years. But instead of that, during the first year itself, we can move the students, or we can expose the students to clinics or to farming conditions, or we can introduce live animal models. Those are known as mannequins. Okay, or we can introduce problem-based learning. So what is problem-based learning, and why is it needed? See, the children, many of the children will find it very difficult to cope up with covering up of the curriculum during the stipulated period of time. So there will be a vast information to be covered or to be studied during a stipulated period. So what they have to do? So we have to direct them to self-directed learning. So that will be leading for or helping the students during their lifelong period. And problem-based learning is defined as a learning method based on the principles of using problems for acquisition of new knowledge. So we will present a problem to the student. It can be a picture, or as a video, or as an experience. So students will be exposed to problems. By that, by exposure to the problems, they will learn or how to cope up with that problem situation. So they will be better learners, they will be active learners, and that is what is meant by problem-based learning. So it is purely a student-centered active learning technique, and students will be learning about a subject or a topic by solving a problem which will be provided to them by the teacher. So teacher will be acting only as a facilitator in this case. So it is a purely learner-centered pedagogy, and how it is going to help the students. So it will be helping the students to earn skills to tackle problems in unanticipated or ill-structured situations. So they will be made self-sufficient by going through the problem-based learning. And who introduced the problem-based learning? So first of all, let me introduce to you Howard Barrows, who was a physician, and he wanted his students to better diagnose new illnesses. So that is how in 1960 he introduced this new method. So now it is not new, but we have to go through as a new technology. So how we will introduce the problem-based learning? We have to group the students into small groups, and the facilitators, that is the teachers, will be guiding the students. So they will not be teaching or narrating lectures. They will be only guiding the students as facilitators. They will be observing the students when they will be undergoing this method of teaching. Okay. So problem will be acting as a vehicle through which the student will learn. And here the students will be in an active role, and they will be choosing what they will learn and how they will learn and how they will assess themselves. Okay, so in traditional methods, what we used to do, pardon me, can you hear?
No, just accidental unmute by the participant.
Okay, okay. So problem-based learning will be having the student in active role. But what we used to do in traditional methods, teachers were having an active role and students were passive listeners. And teachers used to decide what the students should learn and how the students should learn and how the students will be assessed. But in this case, the students are choosing the learning methods, and it will naturally, because the students are involved actively, they will be their interest, abilities, and learning styles will be boosted. So traditional teacher-student roles will be interchanged. The students take up the active role instead of the teacher's dominancy. Okay, so there should be some basic requirements for a PBL class, and one should be, of course, the teacher acting as a facilitator. Then a student group should be there, which will be divided into a chairperson or a leader, then a scribe to note down the reports, then timekeeper who will be taking care of how much time they took to learn that single problem or to derive that single problem. Then there should be members. I told you 6 to 10 person groups can be formed. So a teacher in a student group and a well set classroom with all facilities. A smart classroom will be needed with internet, LCD projector, whiteboards, because the students have to present their topic at the end. Okay, so they will be going to the library or internet connection. So because they have to search for the details. So a smart classroom, a group of students, and the teacher. Those are the requirements for the problem-based learning. So here in problem-based learning, we use two terminologies. One will be the educational objectives. Educational objective means what the teacher expects from the students after this process. Then another one is learning objective. So that will be what is learned by the students, or what are the things which are to be learned by the students. So these two has to be fixed at first. So what are the educational objectives? That is, what are the teachers' objectives for implementing problem-based learning? See, as Howard Barrows introduced this problem-based learning, I told you that was to a group of medical students. So here we use some terminologies in connection with clinics. Okay, so in farming students, or we can use that clinic, or we can avoid that term clinical, and we can use the term critical instead of that. Okay, so structuring of knowledge in clinical or farming situations, that will be the first educational objective for the teacher while we introduce the problem-based learning. So structuring the knowledge. So what the students should learn by the end of the PBL process. That is one thing. That is, of course, it will be a part of your curriculum. Then what will be, or developing an effective critical or clinical reasoning process. So how the students should go through a clinical or critical reasoning process. That is the procedure or methodology which has to be adopted. So that is a second educational objective. Then development of self-directed learning skills. That is most important, because when we narrate or a lecture, they are passive listeners. So instead of that, they are searching for the information or knowledge by themselves, and they are finding out how this topic is to be learned and what is to be learned. So we are directing the students so as to develop self-directed learning skills. So that will be useful for them to derive or to come out of any problem encountered during their life, not even in the academics, even after that also. Okay, so that is the third educational objective for the teacher for implementing the problem-based learning. Then fourth one will be to improve the motivation for learning. So there are four educational objectives why a teacher should implement problem-based learning. So one thing is to improve knowledge, that is to cover the curriculum. Then one thing is to follow a proper technology or methodology. Then the last two is for the students to improve their learning skills and to motivate the students. Now, there are different methods for problem-based learning. 5 methods are there. And in the first two, teachers dominate. That is, when we lecture, or when we dictate, when we present a lecture first and then present a problem case to the students, that is known as a lecture-based case. Then, so we can take a lecture first and then present the case. And as second, we can present the cases first, followed by a lecture. So that is case-based lecture. That is the second type. Then third type will be case-based discussions. Instead of lecture, we place it to a discussion class. Okay, so that is the third type. Then fourth type will be problem or inquiry-based learning. So now we are coming to our problem-based learning stepwise. So here students will be given a particular problem. Through that, they have to arrive at that particular topic. So that is problem or inquiry-based learning. Then a fifth one is a closed loop reiterative learning, wherein we will present a problem to the students. Through that problem, the student will learn that particular subject. Then at the end, we will come back to that original problem itself and we'll verify whether that was all the learning objectives were met. Okay, so that is a revision of the problem introduced to the student. So 5 methodologies for PBL taxonomy or PBL learning. So in the first case, so remember, we had 4 educational objectives for implementing this one. So here we have 5 methods. So for by implementing the first lecture-based case, see our educational objective, that is a structured clinical context, that is structuring the knowledge. Then second one is clinical reasoning process, reasoning or ability of reasoning by the student. Then third one, self-directed learning. Then fourth one, motivation for learning. So these were the 4 educational objectives. So when we implement a lecture-based case, that is when we deliver the lecture first and then go to the problem. See, all these will be in a minimum, or for the students, the knowledge attained, then critical reasoning process, self-directed learning and motivation will be at the minimum base level. Okay. When we implement a case-based lecture, that is the second type. When we narrate the cases first, then explain, then again there will be a slight improvement, because when they hear to the clinical case for the first time before they learn that topic, then there will be an element of reasoning introduced and they will gain an additional knowledge. So they will gain the knowledge level, or their motivational level will be little bit greater. Okay. Then case-based discussion. So when we narrate the case first, and then instead of giving or going for a lecture, when we take a discussion class, then again their involvement will be a little more elevated. Okay. then motivation also will be more. Then when we introduce the problem-based learning, like when we introduce the students directly to the problem and ask them to derive it by themselves, then all these processes, all these educational objectives like gaining of knowledge, clinical reasoning, then self-directed learning and motivation will be more. And when they are left to themselves by problem-based learning and we revise at the end, then all these educational objectives like knowledge, reasoning, then self-directed learning and motivation will be the maximum. So these are the 5 types of problem-based learning and the advantages for the teacher and to the students. Okay, now we'll see the problem-based learning, how it is going to be implemented stepwise. So here there can be, we know that the teacher should be only a facilitator. So a facilitator can be assigned to each group. See, each class group, for example, if there are 100 students in a class, we may divide them into 6 or 10 groups, we may say. So 10 groups of 10 students each. Okay, so one facilitator will be provided if there are enough faculty members in a department. Say, for example, if there are 10 faculty members in a department, we will assign a fixed facilitator, a fixed teacher for a single group. So 10 student group and 10 teachers. So one teacher for one group. That method is fixed facilitator model. Then floating facilitator model can be used when there are lesser faculty members. So a facilitator can move from one group to another. So that will be known as a floating facilitator model. Then if there are very less faculty members in a department, then we can assign undergraduate senior students for being the facilitator, and the teacher himself can be a coordinator at the end. Okay, so that is known as peer tutor model. Then a large class model is the final one, where there will be only a teacher, additional facilitators will not be there. So a single teacher has to motivate all the student groups. So there can be different instructional models for problem-based learning. Now, I told you there are separate objectives for teacher and the students. Now, even though the student-teacher roles are interchanged, students have a different role in the problem-based learning. Teachers also have different roles. Okay, what are the roles of the teacher in problem-based learning? So a teacher, as we know, will be acting as a facilitator, and see, the skill of the teacher will be acting to improve the problem-based learning. Now, like, see, teacher has to select the problem, and that problem has to be so ill-defined that the student will not get any idea as to what should be the learning objective at the beginning. So the role of the teacher starts with defining or designing an ill-defined problem. So teacher has to make out numerous problems for the students. It can be, as I told you, it can be in the form of a chart or a video, whatever it is, or a phrase. It can be even a newspaper clipping. Okay, so teacher has to divide the students into different groups. As I told you, the group size can be 5 to 10, and we can divide towards the end of the semester. We can divide the students into different groups, and we can narrate the problems by using 1 or 2 practical classes. After that, we will let loose the students to the clinics or to the farms. Okay, so no class hours are lost by implementing the problem-based learning. We have to form groups, and we have to narrate what is meant by this problem. based learning, and we have to let them free. So the teacher has to form the student groups, then present the problem, as I told you, as a printed worksheet or a picture or a video. So we'll see some examples of problems. See, in veterinary or in agriculture, see, there are different courses. Like in veterinary science, we have, I am basically a professor in anatomy, veterinary anatomy, and we teach the structure. So we have different subjects like structure of the bones or blood vessels, etc. So a problem which is given by an anatomy teacher will be intended for learning the subject anatomy by that particular student. Say I'll tell you another example later. So the same problem can be given by a surgery teacher or a pathology teacher, but the learning objective will be different. In the sense, when I give a picture of a bone to the student in the first year without teaching him the anatomy of that particular bone. See, I am giving that particular bone which will not be identified the student. He has not gone through the proper anatomy class. He has not studied that bone. So as far as for the student, it is a problem in the sense he doesn't know anything about that bone, which bone is that, or what is where is the location of that bone. He doesn't know anything about that particular bone. So that is a problem for him. That is to identify that bone and to study the structure of that particular bone is a problem. When I give a picture of a bone to that particular student. See, I am telling you only an example. I'll tell you in detail later. So when the same picture is given by a surgery teacher, that is in a different subject. See, the learning objective will be, so in surgery we teach different fractures and all. So when we give that particular bone, picture of a bone in surgery, see, the student knows the structure of the bone and all. Sir, I think.
Accidental unmute. So please continue.
Sorry.
It was an accidental unmute. Please continue.
Yes. See, the same picture. In a first year student, the picture of the bone is an entirely new topic. Okay, so he doesn't know anything about the bone, so he has to derive like what is that bone and what is that anatomy of that bone. But when when that student reaches surgery, that is in a final year. Surgery is a final year subject. So he has passed all those anatomy courses and all. When he sees the same picture in a surgery class, he knows about bones and he knows about which bone is that. But when we give that same picture in a surgery as a part of the problem-based learning, our learning objective is different. Like when we give that bone to a surgery student, the learning objective will be what can be the surgical interventions possible if that bone is fractured. Okay, so a same problem can be given at different levels for a student, but the learning objective will be different pertaining, and that will be pertaining to that particular subject. So here you find a problem. It is a phrase, okay? So here you can go through by adding chlorophyll will be increased. Okay, so that is the problem given to a student. Okay, so this we can give in different subjects in fodder production or in biology, but the learning objective Learning objective means what the student should learn by undergoing this problem-based learning. So when we give this problem, this particular problem to that student, what we intend for that student to learn at the end of this process, that is what is meant by the learning objective. So in a biology class, the teacher will mean by giving this problem, the teacher's intention is that by going through this problem, the student should learn by himself what are the changes which happen to or which may happen if we add excess iron to that ocean water, or if we add another metal into the same amount of water or into same scenario, what can be the differences, or why that chlorophyll content increased by adding iron. Okay, so is there any connection with global warming for this chemical treatment? Okay, so what is the potential treatment which we can use to effect or to protect the earth? All these are the questions which have to be answered by the student. See, the teacher will give the problem and the student has to find out what are the intentions of the teacher by giving this problem to me. So that is the learning objective which the student has to find out. Of course, it is being given as a part of the curriculum. Okay, so we are going to direct the student for self-directed learning. So this is one example. Okay, I'll give you one other example. Okay, so this is another example. See, we are giving only ill-defined problems. Like, so this shows an animal-human conflict in a forest area. This is a set of data which was published in a newspaper previously, November 19. Okay. So by giving this kind of a problem, the learning objective, okay, so it can be given as a problem in a general subject. So the learning objective when this problem is given to a student will be that the student should study ultimately what are the causes for depleting the forest covers in that particular area and why these animals are encroaching the town. Then so what we can do or what as a student we can suggest for solving that particular issue. So those will be the learning objective. So we directly, the teacher will not say what are the learning objective. The student has to connect his subject with that problem and find out the learning objective. And finally, he can go and ask his teacher whether I have learned, or these are the things which I have learned or referred and learned from this particular problem. And if I have met the learning objective satisfactorily, that the student has to learn. He has to connect his subject with that particular problem. Now, again, we will see another example. See here, when there was news like previously, the women were not, allowed in Shabarimala. But recently there was a confusion regarding this, and women used to move to that particular temple. Okay, so this piece of news was taken from the newspaper, and if we give such a problem to the students, see, it can be given to a history student, for example, or even to a forestry student, for example, because that temple is situated in a forest area. See, we can, from a history student's point of view, the learning objective can be to study that history of that temple, or history pertaining to all these restrictions for the women to that temple, like that. Okay, suppose we are giving the same problem to a forestry student, then his or her learning objective will be to study why that forest area was being considered as for restricted entry for some category of human beings. Is there any particular aspect for that particular forest area which led to previous rulers to restrict human entry or human habitats in that particular area? Is there any imbalance which may be created on entering of a lot of people into that particular area? Is it something concerned with disturbing the nature, or is it something concerned with wild animal attack? So all those can be the learning objective for a forestry student. So that is what I told you. The same problem can be given in different subjects, and it is the duty of the teacher and the students to link that particular problem with their own subject. Okay, now another example is, see, I'm narrating because it is a heterogeneous group. I'm narrating only general problems. Okay, so suppose there is recently there was or in some places there will be huge traffic blocks. For example, in near Shoba city in Thrissur town, there was a traffic block, and we used to have very difficulty because that is situated on the way to Guruvayur, a very busy temple, and also to Kozhikode. Okay, so Calicut. So that is a problem which can be given to, again, different subjects or general subjects. Say, for example, to humanity. Okay. Here, the learning objective will be to study, to understand the socio-economic status of that particular area, then reason for that issue, special geography of that particular place. Because there is a bridge overlying that area or lying near to that area, and it is a narrow passage. So it is a very important passage to, or connecting Thrissur with, or this district with another one, and it also goes to a very busy temple. So because of that narrow bridge, that was the reason primarily for the traffic block near that Shoba city. So when a student goes through that problem, he will have to go through the problem and go to that particular place and find out what that problem is, and also he has to resolve solution to that particular problem. Okay, so I'll come to the veterinary subject. So here you can see a pup. So this was a problem given in our subject anatomy to the first year students. So only this picture with a statement was given. So I told you during the first year, the students are totally new to this problem. And here we use so many technical terms like macrocephalus, then seizures, okay, etc. So the students will have to find out what all these technical terms are meant. Okay, so this same problem, when we give in anatomy, we'll have the learning objective. See here, this pup is having a larger head. Okay, so in anatomy, we teach normal structure of an animal. So when we give this larger sized, picture of a larger pup with a larger sized head, our learning objective will be for the students to find out what are the different reasons behind the larger sized head of a pup. And if it is particularly given in a neurology course, is there any difference in the brain? What are the brain abnormalities which may lead to this condition? So like that, the learning objective goes. And if this same picture and the problem is given to a final year student, see, he or she may be knowing that this condition is hydrocephalus, and because he has passed so many courses, and at that point their learning objective will be to learn about what can be the treatment or how to diagnose this condition. All those will be the learning objective if the same picture is given to a final year student. Okay, so same picture as we used to give this radiographic picture to the first year student. See, that is before teaching them about the osteology. So when we give this very picture in a first year of class, the student will have to find out, as the learning objective will be, which bone has undergone fracture, and is there any difference between species for this particular bone, or how you could arrive at the name of this bone as a particular one. And if we give the same picture in a final, for a final year student, he has to, here you find a fractured bone. As I told you earlier, what has to be the primary fracture correction techniques, or what are the different types of fractures encountered in such a bone, like that will be the learning objective. So here you find another picture. This is a picture showing the liver. So again, pathological changes are there. So the same picture can be given in anatomy and also in pathology. Okay, wherein in anatomy, students' learning objective will be to study the normal structure of the liver, whereas a pathology student will have to find out what are the changes which may happen to the liver during different disease conditions. So the learning objective is different even with the same picture depending upon the course, and it is the duty of the teacher or the student to design different problems and to find out or to connect this particular picture with their own subject. Okay, so here again, this picture of a horse can be given as a problem to, it's a lame horse. It was a video actually. The horse is lame in his limb, and if it is given as a problem in anatomy, the learning objective can be what are all the nerves or what are all the muscles being involved, their anatomy and all, if there is a lameness in the right forelimb of a horse. Okay, when it is given to a later class, like in final year, then we will be thinking about the treatment and diagnosis of this particular disease. Okay, so these are a few examples of problems which we used to give. See again, so I'll skip. So if a cow is brought for with the signs of parturition, like that it goes. Then I'll tell you, if a pig farmer encounters paraplegia, that is a sort of paralysis in his herd of fattening pigs. So that can be a problem given to a set of students. So they have to find out what are the reasons. If it is given to a nutrition student, he will have to fix his learning objective as a nutritional deficiencies which may lead to this paraplegia or condition. Or if it is given to a surgery student, he will have to find out the diagnostic methods. Or if it is given to a clinical medicine student, again, it will be dependent upon the diagnosis and treatment. So learning objective again different. So we were discussing about the role of the teacher when implementing the problem-based learning. One is to divide the students into the groups. Next one will be to assign the problem. Then the third one will be to assess the students' performance at the end of the semester or end of the annual period. Okay. Now, when we discussed earlier about the role of the teacher and the students, we have seen that the teacher has to fix the educational objectives and the student have to fix the learning objectives when we implement problem-based learning. Now, what are the steps which have to be followed by the students during problem-based learning? Okay, so to have a uniformity of the process, we can implement the 7 steps MAASTRICT PBL process for the students. Okay, we will narrate. The students have to 7 steps which the students have to undergo while going through the PBL process. The 7 steps will be: first, to clarify the unfamiliar terms. Say, for example, we have seen in that hydrocephalus case, the seizures, etc. we use. So, unfamiliar terms used in that particular problem. So, first step for the student is to go through that particular problem and to get clarified the unfamiliar terms in that particular problem given by the teacher. Second step will be to define the problem. So what can be the possibilities which the teacher meant when he or she gave this problem to us? So what can be? If so, purely that question will be related with a particular subject in which the student has been given a problem. Okay. Then third one is to analyze. That is, students are grouped into 5 or 10 students group. So they have to brainstorm or discuss within that group the problem. Okay. Step 4 is to review. So they have to go through their lecture notes, or they have to collect information. They can search for similar pictures. Okay, so they have to review the information. Then step 5, formulate the learning objective. This is very important, because if I am giving as an anatomy teacher a picture to the student, my intention is the student should learn anatomy of a particular bone. Okay, so the student should formulate learning objective. What the teacher meant by me to learn by doing this problem-based learning. So he has to, like, I need to study the structure of this bone, or anatomy of that particular area, like that. Okay, so then there will be a self-study component. Okay, see, when I am giving a problem to the student, my educational objective is to teach that particular subject to that student, or my intention is that student should learn my subject, anatomy. Okay, but the student is a veterinary student, because I am teaching in veterinary college. So there are many other subjects which the student can relate with this particular topic. For example, surgery. When I give a picture of a bone for identification to that particular student, the student on his own interest can investigate upon the related subject also. He can take this picture of bone or the picture of an X-ray to the clinics, meet the teachers there, and can have or can ask them what are the different surgical problems which we may self-study component. This is most important, because this is the motivational point where the student is getting into a self-learning process. Okay, so here the student will learn other subjects also by themselves. So step 6 is a self-study, and in this the student will refer about other subjects, not anatomy, and other than anatomy, he can read other subjects and he can improve his knowledge. So that is a step 6. Then step 7 will be to synthesize and make a report and present this problem. So 7 steps: clarify, define, analyze, review. Okay, so clarify means students have to read the problem, identify the unclear terms and clarify. Then define the problem. The students will have to work together and find out what this problem is, what is teacher's intention. Then analyze the problem is the third step, where the students will have to discuss and find out whether what can be the teacher's intention and what can be the problem with that particular picture. Then review, where the students can refer to their notes and they can arrange their ideas. Then identify the learning objectives, what we need to study by using this particular problem. They can refer their notes and refer to internet. Then self-study, what are the extra points to be learned from this point. Okay, then ultimately they have to, the group leader may present the new information. So that is how the problem-based learning is implemented. As I told you, it is simply to boost the aptitude of the student who might have been depressed at the time of admission to a new course, because he or she may be having an interest in another subject in which they could not gain admission. They have been admitted by force, might be. That also might happen. They have been admitted to this course without having an aptitude for that particular course. So we can improve that aptitude of the student by introducing them to newer techniques or newer topics or clinical or real life situations, farm conditions, you have fodder production areas, farms and all. You can expose the student and find out different fodders by their own, differentiate the different fodder types by their own, and what are the different problems being faced by that fodder cultivation area, what is that particular importance of that particular area, is there any advantage for that particular area for fodder cultivation, or is there any disadvantage for that particular area for like water scarcity, like that. So we can expose the students even during the first year to the real life situations so as to improve their knowledge. We can give ill-defined problems so that they by their own find out the learning objective and study by self-learning. So this kind of a learning will be especially useful when the curriculum demands vast or the quantity of the subject to be covered during a particular semester is huge, and the student has got only a limited period of time. So we can give time for the student as assignments at the end for as problem-based learning, ill-defined problems as pictures, videos and all. So during leisure time, they will go to the clinics or to the fodder land or to the farm, and they will learn by their own. And those topics which they learn by themselves, that will last long, or that will ever last in the memory of the student. So that is how we imprint the syllabus in the mind setup of a student. So PBL usually helps to develop or improve knowledge, skills, attitude and aptitude of learning, and we direct the student towards self-directed and lifelong learning. Okay, so it is for encouraging the learners, and by group discussion they will improve their collaboration, solving skills, and they will have flexible knowledge because they read more books. So by problem-based learning, other than the traditional method, there will be motivation increased, retention capacity increased, applicability, interpersonal skills all professional skills and lifelong learning all increased. So that is found by research method, that those children will be um, so they will be more happy if they learn by themselves, and they can achieve more academic heights if they are left to their own for self learning methods. Okay, so thank you all. So I should thank our university for sending me abroad for learning this problem based learning. And problem based learning is an effective way to motivate the students and to achieve all the educational objectives for the teacher and to the student. Research have shown that students prefer this method very much when they are left to their own methods. So that will be about problem based learning. So if you have any queries, you may please ask. So that is all.
Dr. Pratap, can you be a bit louder? Dr. Pratap, you have to ask a question. Please be a bit louder.
Sorry?
Any questions, please ask. Any questions by participants, please ask.
So is there any? So let me ask the participants, is there any practice in your college to practice problem-based learning? Have you ever been left the students to themselves so that they can gain their knowledge? So of course, this is a heterogeneous group, I presume, and you can try this method. And of course, one disadvantage of problem-based learning is it will be time-consuming. But the students, if they are left to their own during the leisure time after the class, then they will be moving out because they have improved interest in the clinics and all. So we instill the interest in their applicability of our subject. So they will be, even during leisure time, they will move to the clinic or to the real life situations or to the fodderlands or to the farms, and will check for their learning objectives, or what they are meant for is to be doctors or the practitioners or agricultural scientists and all. So they will search for their real subject to which they have their aptitude. They will search for, if they are left to their own, they will move to the subject which they prefer and find out, or they will spend more time in that particular area of the clinical practice or to the farming conditions and all. So they will search and find out their preferred area of interest. So that is how we instill motivation in the students. Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I am Dr. Ghulam Rasool from Veterinary Faculty, Srinagar.
Okay. Hello.
Ma'am, I think this problem-based learning is a very effective tool, particularly when you throw a student into a new profession where he is not interested.
Yes.
But here the main problem in most of the time, the main problem remains the large class with single facilitator.
Yes, sir.
And a single facilitator has to motivate a large number of students.
Yes.
So, ma'am, what are you then at that time? It becomes very difficult to achieve the objectives of this problem-based learning, like knowledge, reasoning, processing, self-directed learning skills, and motivation for learning. So, ma'am, what are your suggestions so that we can make this problem-based learning effective in this situation?
Okay,
Because
I'll
we cannot we are bound to follow fixed and rolling models for this
Yes,
PBL.
sure, sir. See, sir, I'll tell you one example. In our class, we have 100 students. Okay, so we will split for practical purposes. We divide the batch into 25. So four practical batches will be there. So first of all, we will follow the large class model for this problem-based learning. If there is only a single teacher to handle a single class for problem-based learning, we will suggest the large class model where a single teacher will narrate the steps and all these procedures through a theory class, that is towards either it can be towards the end of the semester or even at the beginning. So we will start our problem based learning. We will use one theory class for narrating all these procedures to the whole students. So one theory class, one large class model to the 100 students. Now when they come to the practical class, okay, we will practice or we will give the problem to, or we will divide the students into groups of 5 or 10. Okay, so 25 students will be coming to a single practical class. The same course teacher will be there to take the practicals. So in that, I will group the students to 5 groups with 5 students each. I will identify one chairperson in that group. In each group, I will identify one chairperson, one scribe, one timekeeper. Okay, so I have divided into 5 groups and I will give separate pictures or videos or newspaper clippings to this particular groups. So they have been given their problem. Okay, so my role is over. Now I will give the time for the students that after 1 month we will have one review meeting in the same practical class. You should ask me. See, that is the first step. Clarify, define, and all to me. If you have any doubt, and I will check whether you have progressed through the same particular learning objective which I meant for them to learn by giving this particular problem. That is after 1 month. Okay, so they will move after their class hours to the different clinics or farms and all. I will inform the clinics teachers that these students will come there. Please entertain them because we are practicing problem based learning. That is a minimum courtesy, because the clinics there will be another set of students there. Teachers may fight. So we will specifically say the students, you may please go after the afternoon hours only to the clinics. Okay, so when they move to the clinics, so other than giving this problem, I will not do anything. All these are being done by the students themselves. They will move to, as a group, they will move to the clinics. But intermittently, they will come to me, madam, this is this the learning objective which you meant? Is this or I have to clarify this terminology, or even otherwise they will clear and find out their own by their own means what is the meaning of that term and all. That is also there. So gradually they will love that topic which they are going to learn and present. They will find out all aspects by going to the clinics or to the farm or to the borderland. They will learn by themselves. Other than if you give a picture of or a set of grass or a set of animals, and you please tell them to please go through these pictures and study by themselves. Or if I am going to narrate, see, this breed is this one and that breed is that one, like that, they will find it boring. And if they are given that chance to go and find out by themselves, After the lecture hours, they will have a leisure time fruitfully utilized. Okay, so even with one teacher, by dividing the class into different groups, it is possible that possible, sir. But we have to find out a set of problems. So we have to find out nearly 20 problems for to be given to a 5-membered student group if the class is having 100 students. It is possible, sir. But I have found it by myself. Then again, at finally at the last, we have to call them back to present their problem, because they are discussing between themselves and they are collaborating their ideas between themselves, and there won't be even a single doubt in that particular topic by the end of that semester to this particular group of the students. And we will ask all the students to present in front of the other students also, so that they will find it a pleasure time. Other than if we narrate them a lecture, they will find it more pleasureful if they are taking class for themselves. So that is my experience, sir. Even with a large class, it is possible. Is it clear, sir?
Okay, okay. Clear, ma'am. Thank you
Any
for
other question, please? Any other question? I don't think there are any further questions, ma'am. We have been. It has been such a pleasure being in this session and seeing that wonderful presentation on pedagogy and problem-based learning. On behalf of NADCL, as well as on behalf of IGFRI, and on behalf of the participants especially, I would like to thank you and extend our gratitude to you. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us. Thanks a lot.
So let me express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizing committee and for giving me this opportunity, and I owe thanks to all the delegates for their patient hearing and cooperation. Thank you.
Participants, there are 3 sessions. The next one is at 2 p.m. and the other one is at 3 p.m. Please join back at 2 p.m. Thank you. We can all leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.